For years, every morning started the same way, with a dry, persistent cough that wouldn't even let me breathe calmly. I would get out of bed with a heavy chest, as if I had slept inside a cloud of dust. No matter how many syrups I took, herbal teas, or breathing exercises I did, that discomfort remained, day after day, as if my lungs had filled with something I couldn't get out. I thought it was normal, part of aging, that after 60 or 70, you just have to get used to living with that feeling. But I was wrong. One ordinary afternoon, without looking for it, without planning it, thinking only about soothing a throat irritation, I did something as simple as heating water and adding an ingredient I'd always had in the kitchen. I drank it slowly, expecting no miracles. What happened next completely shocked me. After 5 minutes, I felt something move inside me. Not pain, not a harsh reaction, but a kind of unexpected relief, as if my lungs had finally been freed. I coughed, yes, but this time it wasn't dry. It was productive. For the first time in years, I felt like I was really getting something out. Like everything stuck, dormant, glued to my bronchi had decided to come out. I sat silently, cup still warm in my hands, wondering, what just happened? How could something so simple, so accessible, that anyone could prepare at home, have done more for me in 5 minutes than all the syrups and pills from the last 3 years? And you know what struck me the most? That this ingredient had been there the whole time. In my kitchen, in my pantry. Something any of us could have right now without knowing how powerful it is. Since then, my life has changed. And if you're watching this video, I want to share with you everything I've learned. Because if this worked for me after years of discomfort, maybe it can help you too. But before I reveal it, I want to know something about you. How old are you? And which country are you watching from? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to get to know you. After 60, you start noticing things you didn't before. A walk you used to take effortlessly now leaves you breathless. Climbing a flight of stairs becomes a small battle. And that cough, that persistent cough that shows up every morning and doesn't go away, becomes part of your routine like coffee or breakfast. At first, I ignored it. I thought it was just a reaction to dust or maybe the winter cold. But the days went by, then weeks, and soon I started noticing other signs. A heaviness in my chest, a soft wheezing when I breathed, and later, phlegm that didn't come out easily. Everything was building up, and every morning I felt like I had to clear something inside me to start the day. I didn't want to worry. I went to the doctor, of course. They prescribed cough syrups, pills for congestion, even a spray to open the bronchi. For a while I used a nebulizer that made more noise than effect. I tried everything. Some products seemed to help a little for a couple of days, but soon it was back to the same. The phlegm returned, the cough too. I woke up several times at night, not only because of breathing discomfort, but also because of snoring. And it wasn't just annoying for me. My wife started sleeping in another room because she couldn't rest with the noise. Over the years, I began to believe this was part of aging, as if lungs had an expiration date, and mine was near. And I wasn't alone. Talking with friends my age, I heard the same stories over and over. I also wake up with that dry cough. Don't you sometimes feel like you're short of breath even when sitting? Since I retired, I move less, and I think that's affecting my lungs. I snore so much I wake myself up. My neighbor Edward, for example, was very active in his youth. He worked all his life as a gardener, outdoors, always moving. But now, at 77 years old, he barely walks 2 blocks without having to sit and rest. He once told me he felt like his lungs weren't his anymore. I used to breathe without thinking, he said. Now it's like I have to struggle to fill my lungs. He had tried everything too. Natural pills, sprays, vapors, diets, breathing exercises. Nothing gave him a lasting solution. Just temporary patches that calmed symptoms without fixing the root problem. And nobody prepares us for what happens to our lungs as we age. When we're young, we take breathing for granted. But as the body gets older, Lung tissues lose elasticity, the rib cage stiffens, and the muscles that help us breathe weaken. All this causes mucus buildup, the respiratory system's natural cleaning fails, and those common symptoms appear: fatigue, phlegm, shortness of breath, snoring, chronic cough. I lived in a constant state of resignation, as if my lungs had become an old machine, barely working. And every time I tried something new to help myself, I ended up frustrated, because nothing really worked. Until one day, unexpectedly, something different happened. Something so simple, so absurd at first glance, that I thought it was just a coincidence. But it wasn't. It was the beginning of a transformation, and it all started with a cup of hot water and a single ingredient: tuck. I remember perfectly the day everything changed. It was an autumn morning, one of those days when the air is colder than usual and every breath seems to scrape your throat a little. I woke up with that usual cough, the one that was part of me, as if my body needed it to start. I sat on the bed and, as every day, had to wait a few minutes for my lungs to wake up. But that morning, something was different. My wife had a mild cold and had prepared a hot drink with one of those home ingredients often used to soothe the throat. Nothing strange, something anyone has in their kitchen. She offered me some. I didn't pay much attention. I took the cup just to warm my fingers. I wasn't even expecting it to help. It was just a hot drink, one of those you take more to comfort yourself than to cure. I took a sip. The taste was strong, almost spicy, but not unpleasant. I felt it go down my throat like a small flame, warm, but gentle. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel that tightness at the bottom of my chest. I thought it was my imagination. Another sip, then another. Without realizing it, I finished the whole cup. 5 minutes passed, maybe less. Suddenly, I was invaded by a very strange feeling. It wasn't pain. It wasn't discomfort. It was liberating. I felt as if something had loosened inside me, as if my lungs, trapped for years in an invisible cage, had suddenly expanded. A spontaneous cough shook me, but this time it wasn't dry. It was a cough that came with something, as if what was stuck finally found the way out. I leaned slightly forward, took a deep breath, and didn't feel the usual heaviness. No wheezing, no tightness. It was as if for the first time in years, my lungs remembered what it was like to actually work. I stayed silent. Didn't say a word at first. I felt confused. How could something so simple have that effect? What had happened? Was it just coincidence? A temporary relief? In the following days, I prepared the same infusion again. The same hot water, the same ingredient. And every time, the result was the same. Less phlegm, less cough, clearer breathing. Even the snoring decreased, according to my wife. She was the first to notice. What's curious is, I didn't discover it in a book, or a health channel, or some miracle recipe online. It was an accident, a coincidence, or maybe not. Maybe it was something waiting for me to find it. Because that ingredient, that little piece of nature we all have at home, has been used for centuries in different cultures. But over time we've forgotten, ignored, or underestimated it. It's not a modern medicine. It doesn't come in a box or with complicated instructions. It's simple, but powerful. And that's when I realized something. Sometimes what we need isn't more technology, expensive treatments, or hard-to-pronounce pills. Sometimes what truly soothes is closer than we imagine. I'm not telling you what the ingredient is yet, because first, I want to explain why it works so well, what exactly it does inside your body, and why, if you're over 60, you should know it today. What happens inside your lungs after 60? As we age, many things change in our body. Hair gets thinner, muscles weaken, skin loses elasticity. But what almost no one mentions are the lungs. Yet lungs are responsible for one of the most important functions of all, delivering oxygen to every corner of the body. After 60 years old, our lungs don't work the same as when we were 30. And it's not just because of time passing. It's because of everything they've had to endure over decades. Throughout life, we breathe over 500 million times. In every breath, air enters, but also dust, pollution, smoke, viruses, bacteria. All of that leaves a mark. Over the years, lungs fill with small invisible scars, become less elastic, and the muscles around them weaken. It's as if they get tired of expanding, as if they lose strength to clean themselves. One of the most common problems at this stage is mucus buildup. That thick phlegm that appears on waking, the cough that won't go away, the feeling that there's something there that never fully leaves. What the body used to eliminate easily now gets trapped, and that's not only uncomfortable, it can be dangerous. Why? Because that stagnant mucus becomes the perfect place for bacteria to accumulate. This can cause respiratory infections, inflammation, difficulty breathing. Over time, it becomes a cycle: more phlegm, more cough, more fatigue, and less desire to move. And here comes another big enemy of the aging lung: sedentarism. When you stop moving, walking, breathing deeply, your lungs slow down. Oxygen doesn't circulate as well, respiratory muscles weaken, and the whole body starts running on less energy. Even something as simple as laughing, climbing stairs, or reading aloud can become hard. To understand better, imagine two people the same age, 80 years old. The first walks every day, stretches, does breathing exercises. The second spends most of the day sitting, with little movement and shallow breaths. Now look at their lungs. The active person's lungs are better oxygenated, with better capacity to remove toxins, less accumulated mucus. The sedentary person's lungs have areas where air no longer reaches well, with secretions that don't clear, and a higher risk of infections and illnesses. And speaking of illnesses, after 60, lungs become more vulnerable to conditions like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, causing constant shortness of breath, chronic bronchitis, persistent cough, thick mucus, heavy chest sensation, asthma in older adults, which can appear even if you never had asthma when young, recurrent pneumonia, due to difficulty defending against infections. Many of these illnesses go unnoticed because they're mistaken for normal aging symptoms. But they're not. Having trouble breathing, coughing every morning, or feeling exhausted after a few steps is not getting older. It's a warning your lungs need help. And the most frustrating thing is many doctors offer solutions that just cover up symptoms: syrups, pills, inhalers. But they don't address the root. They don't clean. They don't strengthen. That's why what I'm about to tell you next could completely change how you breathe. Because when that natural ingredient entered my body, it didn't just relieve symptoms. It went straight to the roots of the problem. It loosened mucus, opened my bronchi, calmed inflammation, and it did it in minutes. Yank, the moment you've been waiting for has arrived. That natural ingredient, that little miracle that changed my life in minutes, is probably something you already have in your kitchen, but never imagined could do so much for your lungs. That ingredient is ginger. Yes, ginger. That aromatic root with an intense and spicy flavor that many use in cooking without knowing it's one of the best natural allies to cleanse lungs, reduce inflammation, and help expel phlegm. But it's not about eating it raw, nor taking complicated capsules. The most effective way I used it was as an infusion in hot water. Something as simple as making tea, but with an immediate effect on my breathing. Here's how I did it. Every morning, before breakfast, I boiled 1.5 cups of water. Meanwhile, I peeled a slice of fresh ginger, about half the size of a finger. When the water started boiling, I turned it off and added the ginger directly to the pot, covering it so the essence wouldn't escape. I let it steep for 10 minutes. Then I strained the infusion, poured it into a cup, and drank it slowly. I didn't add sugar or honey, though if it tastes too strong for you, you can add a few drops of fresh lemon juice to soften the flavor. And now comes the most important part. what I felt. As soon as I started drinking it, the strong, warm aroma of ginger rose through my nose, and I felt something I hadn't in years, an immediate opening in my chest, as if my bronchi expanded. I breathed deeply, and for the first time in a long time, I felt no resistance, no cough, no pressure that accompanied me every morning, just clean air flowing in and out effortlessly. It was such immediate relief that I sat silently, simply breathing, and with each sip, I felt my throat calm, my lungs free, and my whole body relax. But why does ginger work? What does this root have that achieves so much in so little time? The answer lies in its natural composition. Ginger contains compounds called gingerols and shogols, which have anti-inflammatory, expectorant, and antimicrobial effects. That means it not only helps reduce bronchial swelling, but also loosens mucus, makes its removal easier, and fights bacteria that might cause silent infections. Additionally, ginger stimulates circulation, which helps deliver more oxygen throughout the body. This translates into more energy, less fatigue, and a clearer mind. And you know what's best? It has no side effects. It doesn't affect blood pressure, doesn't harm the stomach, doesn't interfere with other medications. It's pure, natural, and safe when used responsibly. Since that first day, I've taken this infusion every morning, and over time the changes became even deeper. Less cough, less phlegm, more mental clarity, and more vitality. Even my voice, which used to sound hoarse and weak, regained strength. You don't need to spend on expensive products or invasive treatments. Sometimes the solution is in the simplest things, in a root, a cup of hot water, and nature's power when used wisely. But this is just the beginning. In the next part, I'll show you how to combine this ingredient with other powerful natural allies for an even deeper, longer-lasting effect. Because yes, there are ways to protect and rejuvenate your lungs, even after 60, 70, or more. Ready for the next step? Let's go. Now that you know the ingredient and how to use it, you might be wondering, is this really true? Does it work as proven? Or is it just a personal story? That's a great question. Because what we're about to see is something medical and natural science has already researched and confirmed. Ginger's effects on lung health are not a coincidence. They're a reality supported by studies and experts. Let's start with the most important. What happens inside the lungs when you take ginger? When you drink a hot ginger infusion, its active compounds, especially gingerols and shogols, enter the bloodstream and start acting on the respiratory system immediately. These compounds relax the muscles in the airways, open the bronchi, and reduce the inflammation that often makes breathing hard in older adults. Also, ginger loosens mucus stuck to the lung walls and makes it easier to expel naturally. That's why, minutes after drinking the infusion, many people feel they can breathe deeper and clearer, even without coughing. But this isn't just a perception. There are scientific studies that confirm it. For example, a study published in the American Journal of Respiratory Cell and Molecular Biology found that ginger relaxes the smooth muscles of the airways, even in people with asthma or obstructive diseases. Researchers concluded it can be a natural complementary treatment to improve breathing without side effects. Another study in the International Journal of Preventive Medicine showed ginger has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects that can reduce chronic respiratory symptoms, improve lung function, and prevent cellular damage caused by air pollution or passive smoking. And it's not just modern science. Natural doctors worldwide have used ginger for centuries to treat respiratory problems, from common colds to bronchitis and chronic cough. In traditional Chinese medicine, ginger is considered a warming ingredient, able to disperse cold in the chest, mobilize qi or vital energy, and clear accumulated phlegm from the lungs. Even some pulmonologists recognize ginger's value as complementary support for patients with mild or chronic respiratory diseases. While it doesn't replace medical treatment when needed, it can be a powerful help to improve symptoms, reduce cough, and strengthen respiratory defenses. What exactly happens in the lungs? First, inflammation in lung tissues decreases, opening airways and allowing oxygen to enter more easily. Then, Ginger compounds stimulate the mucociliary system, an internal broom that sweeps particles trapped in the bronchi. This lets phlegm loosen and come out naturally with cough, less annoyingly. Also, its antimicrobial properties help fight bacteria and viruses that often accumulate in the airways unnoticed, especially in older people with weaker defenses. That's why after a few days of drinking this infusion, it's common to notice less snoring at night, less phlegm in the morning, and in many cases, increased lung capacity. You can walk more without getting tired, talk without choking, and breathe deeply without that chest tightness. The beautiful thing is, nature already gave us this tool, and all we have to do is use it consistently, respectfully, and consciously. Now, the moment many have been waiting for. How do you prepare this infusion correctly so it really works? Because it's not enough to just throw a piece of ginger in hot water and call it a day. No. How you prepare it makes the difference between something barely tasting like anything and something that truly cleans your lungs from the inside out. Here's the step-by-step recipe, just as I learned it, and prepare it every day. Ingredients: a fresh ginger root, about the size of your thumb. 1.5 cups of filtered water, approximately 300 milliliters. Optional: 1 tablespoon of pure honey, juice of half a lemon, or a sprig of dried thyme. Preparation. Step 1. Wash the ginger well. If it's organic or trusted, you can leave the skin on. If not, peel it carefully with a spoon. Step 2. Cut it into thin slices. The thinner, the more surface area releases its properties into the water. Step 3. Heat the water in a small pot. When it starts boiling, add the ginger and lower the heat. Step 4. Let it simmer gently for 5 to 8 minutes. This time allows the water to absorb the active compounds. Step 5. Turn off the heat and cover the pot. Let it rest 2 or 3 more minutes. Then strain the infusion and pour it into a heat-resistant cup. Optional variations. Here you can customize your infusion according to your tastes and needs. If you have a dry cough or irritated throat, add a teaspoon of pure honey. Honey soothes and protects. If you feel thick mucus or nasal congestion, add a few drops of fresh lemon. It helps cut and move phlegm. If you're cold or have congested bronchi, add a pinch of dried thyme during cooking. Thyme is excellent for opening the lungs. And if you want it even stronger, steam the hot infusion before drinking. Cover your head with a towel and breathe deeply through your nose and mouth for 5 minutes. Then drink it slowly. When is the best time to take it? The most effective time is in the morning, on an empty stomach, or after your first glass of water. Why? Because that's when your lungs are most loaded and the infusion can act better. You can also have a second cup at night, at least an hour before sleeping. This helps reduce snoring, nighttime cough, and chest tightness. What to do afterward? After drinking it, ideally keep your body gently moving for a few minutes. Walk around the house, do light stretches, breathe deeply, and practice slow exhalation exercises. This helps move mucus and lets it come out. Avoid lying down immediately or staying completely still. Conscious breathing is your ally. And if you can go for a 20 or 30-minute walk outdoors, in a park or a place with little smoke, the effect will be even greater. In summary, this little morning ritual can become one of the most healing moments of your day, not only for what ginger does to your body, but also for what it represents. That moment you choose to take care of yourself, breathe better, and take one more step toward health and autonomy. And in the next part, I'll share how to strengthen this habit and turn it into a daily routine that lasts over time without it becoming a burden or something hard to maintain. Because if this helps you, then it deserves a permanent place in your life. Onk. If someone had told me years ago that a simple ingredient in hot water would change how I breathe, honestly, I wouldn't have believed it. I was one of those people who woke up coughing with a heavy chest, as if I was always trapping air but never filling my lungs completely. I struggled to walk short distances, climbed stairs and ran out of breath. Sometimes when I talked a lot, I felt my voice fade inside. I lived with that discomfort as if it were normal, as if it was part of getting older. But all that changed the day I tried that infusion, almost without expecting it. I remember exactly how it was. I prepared the hot water, cut the ginger, at that moment not really knowing why, and sat down to drink it calmly. After a few minutes, I felt a strange lightness, a kind of inner opening. I coughed once, but it was a different cough. I felt something move, something release. That night, I slept better. I didn't snore, didn't wake up several times like before, and the next morning, for the first time in a long time, there was no cough. Since then, my routine changed forever. I don't need so many syrups. I don't have to buy pills all the time, nor spend nights with that chest discomfort. I started breathing differently, living differently. And that's why today I want to leave you some very simple tips to keep your lungs clean in the long run, beyond the remedy. Tips to keep your lungs healthy and free. Avoid closed, smoky environments. The air you breathe is your daily medicine or your invisible poison. Ventilate your home daily, even if just for a few minutes. Don't underestimate fresh air's power. Do breathing exercises every day. Inhale deeply through your nose, exhale slowly through your mouth, 3 or 4 times daily. Move at least a little. Walk, stretch, climb stairs slowly. Movement activates your lungs. Drink fluids throughout the day. Water helps mucus from thickening or accumulating. Include medicinal plants in your life, thyme, oregano, eucalyptus, not just for cooking. Today, at over 60, I understand something no one taught me when I was younger. Breathing well is not a luxury. It's a right. It's health. It's life. And if you're watching this video, maybe you're also looking for the relief I felt. Maybe you're tired of the cough, of feeling the air doesn't come in like before. Or maybe you know someone, your mother, father, partner, who's lived with that discomfort for years and already accepted it as inevitable. To all of you, I want to say this. Don't underestimate what it means to have clean lungs after 60. Because when air flows easily, life feels lighter, the body feels stronger, and the mind much clearer. Dag. And now I want to hear from you.
Have you ever tried a natural remedy that really helped you?
It could be something your grandmother told you, advice from a friend, or something you found on your own. Leave it in the comments. Honestly, I'd love to know what worked for you. Because by sharing, we help each other. And by helping each other, we all breathe a little better. Thank you for staying with me until now.
And if this video inspired you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.
There are many more topics I want to share with you, and I'd love for us to keep learning together. Until the next video. And meanwhile, breathe deeply, because you're alive, and that is already a gift.